not only with the tip setting, but it's a panel about legacy. So we have some wonderful people up here that we think are pillars of the community. They are actively in their legacy creating moment. So I would like for the following people to come up: Flashbook Parks, Sebastien, Anthony Sebastien, Gracie Chavez, and Robert Hodge. Take it away.
Gracie.
Check. All right. How's everybody doing? Let me pull out my questions. All right. I am Jason Woods, Flash Gordon Parks. I'll be moderating this amazing panel. I know everybody on here except Sebastien, so how you doing, man?
I'm good.
Okay,
We
great.
just had breakfast together.
Yeah, so I do know you now. We did eat together. I'm really excited about this. It's not often you really get to commune amongst creatives and artists and musicians and just, people like this from all walks of life. So it should be a great dialogue. So I'm gonna just kick it off with a big question. So we're talking legacy. We're talking Houston, right? So I want to know to the panel, what key elements define an artist's legacy, and how can one begin to identify and shape them early in their career? Let's start with Gracie at the end. What you did, Gracie? Did you get the question?
Can you repeat it again?
What key elements define an artist's legacy? And how can one begin to identify and shape them early on in your career?
I would say probably cultural and social impact would be one of those key elements. I don't know if you want me to kind of expand on it, but just coming from my experience, several years ago, was already an established DJ, but when I formed, a group called Boileau with some, like-minded DJs, we didn't really know how much of a cultural impact that was going to make. And this was 2010. So I think the environment was just right. I mean, we're talking right after Obama administration had really kind of taken root. And so, what really ended up happening is that Boileau became that monthly place where everyone could convene, and not by design, it became a place where we democratized the dance floor. We saw a lot of people that were coming in that weren't just Latin. We were attracting a West Indies crowd, South American crowd, Central American crowd. And this really spoke to the immigrant experience. So before, many of these cultures that have kind of transplanted, come here, taken root, there's this sense to quickly assimilate. But finding a space, as we call it, which means roughly translates, I'm not really from here, but I'm not really there either.
Right.
And so this became that safe space. And again, not by design. What I quickly also learned is that it became a safe space for the LGBTQ community as well. Traditionally, and I guess I should back it up, when you said a Latin night here in Houston, about 15, 16, 20 years ago, we really meant a salsa night. And what that meant was a dress code, cover, and once you got in there, you either had to learn, how to dance salsa really well, social thing. You didn't really see same-sex couples dancing. And so when Bon Bon was created, it was the antithesis of that. And again, not knowing, that you were creating this space, again, not by design, we were just going off of like what felt good, what felt right.
Right.
I look back now and understand that we were doing a lot of community outreach. We were changing the game, so to speak, not with just the music, but the way we all connected. So I really do think now, looking back, when I spent some time in Chicago with a similar movement out there, and they were much more community-minded, I came back thinking, we have a captive audience here. This is like our people. This is our connective tissue. We can do better. And so that's really kind of what set us on a different path, after about 5 years or so.
Right. All right. Harrison.
Good morning. So for me, I honestly try not to put too much weight on legacy right now. I would venture to say that I'm probably anti-legacy while I'm working. Because I think legacy is a really big burden to bear. I think that, so I'm gonna give a perspective from that, but I definitely think there's some people that can think about legacy right now and it could be completely dope, depending on what you do. This is just my own perspective. I think that legacy can be a burden while you're working. I also think we have no idea of knowing what the legacy will be. In my mind, I think that legacy could be trying to outpace destiny or trying to get there before God is how I look at it. And for me, I'd rather just do the work, do good work, and do it like from my soul, from the pit of my gut is how I work. But what I will say, I think that if I was thinking about legacy, the two things I think about is what conversations would I like my work to be in? And am I doing the work to be in those conversations? And who do I want talking about my work? So I do think about small town communities when I'm doing my work, because I'm from a small town. I do think about Black queer artists when I'm doing my work, because I'm a Black queer artist. So I do let that guide the work that I do, just because I hope that it lands in those conversations. So that's my perspective of legacy. It's a little different than how can I build these amazing things and everyone celebrates them when I'm gone? Because the truth is that we don't know. Like a good example is what Gracie just explained to me had a really nice queer story in there. But there are people that don't care about that, right? So that if you wanted your legacy to be, an homage or in the spirit of inclusion, people might skip that and just say, we could wear anything to this place. But maybe you're doing the work to be in the queer conversation, and maybe it will be. So I think that thinking about who you're doing the work for and what conversations you want to be a part of when you're no longer here, preparing for that, I think is the best way to say that I think about legacy.
So, real quick, Sebastien and Robert, if you guys have anything to include or,
I have something really quickly.
Okay.
I'm very parallel to how Harris is thinking.
Okay.
Because some things out of your control. But the legacy I'm thinking about now is my personal, immediate legacy with my family. So I'm thinking about putting my things in trust. I'm thinking about where does my work go? Who's going to be responsible for my work? Because I have some really great mentors that died this year. We had Floyd Newsom that passed, who lived 3 houses down from me. So I've been knowing Floyd my whole life. He was my first example of a living artist. So it was like, I had to take some time to really kind of like process that and recover. And then we lost Jesse Lott. And so they lived 2 different lives. Jesse was a single man living in his studio working. He died, and like it's like chaos kind of ensued. I don't know what the work is. I don't know who owns it. I don't know what things are. And Floyd had somebody that had things in order. He had his wife there. His kids were grown. And so it's the ability of his legacy. And so that's what I've been thinking about. So I've been thinking about where things are going, who's taking care of it, how can I send my daughter to have, access to the work, but not be burdened by it. I literally wrote her a letter 2 days think that way. It's kind of morbid, but while I'm active and young, I want to just have that kind of worked out. Because like I said, the rest of that, I have no control. I hope that I let a pathway where things can happen, but really, you don't know. You can do your best to try to kind of centralize that legacy, but ultimately, I want to do good work. I want to make sure I make real relationships. I want to make sure that, again, when I pass, I go to a lot of funerals, and a lot of people talk, and you don't know who they are, but my daughter can't get up in my immediate family and say like really amazing things. That's really the legacy I'm worried about. So.
Great. Yes, you have anything to add to that?
I mean, not really. You guys touched on it. You pretty much touched on everything I was going to say.
Well, I got
I think it's about honesty. You have to me with something new.
all right. So, as an artist, how do you effectively document and archive your work as you're doing it? I think Harrison brought up a good point. Like, most of us who are doing the work, really prolific people don't even think about, is this being documented, or is somebody paying attention? They just have to do the work. But as an artist, as a creative, like, how do you look at your documentation, or like, this is important, I hope after it's done, people can come back to it, or how do you view the documentation part of it?
I think this is something I can definitely touch on. As a mural artist, starting graffiti, then street art and murals, I've been doing this 35 years, so everything you do eventually disappears. That's just, it's painted over, the buildings come down, that happens all the time. And about 15 years ago, I really started to realize that this really sunk in. And then that's, as much as you live in the moment and eventually when you're gone, there's nothing left. And so I've particularly been documenting through photos, but I also, one of my kind of signature thing is to reclaim, to upcycle the spray can or the medium that I use. So if I use spray paint for a mural, I actually, knowing that the mural will eventually come down and disappear, I actually use these to create more work. Before we would just put them in trash cans and they would go in landfill, which kind of honestly, especially when you talk about legacy, the future, children, and caring about the planet, and just being a good steward. If you can do something, if you can do better, why not? So one of the things is I, painstakingly over the last 15 years, just really been reusing the material to create new work, and that new work actually survives the initial work, if that makes any sense. So there's a mural, and then there will be a painting made with the products that made the mural in the first place. I actually brought some little flyers on the table to showcase that. But going back to, very briefly, legacy is about honesty for me. Just be yourself. It's something that, if you're overthink the business side, then you're already watering down your thoughts. And I think we all, as professional artists, it's always tricky. There's a challenge, financial challenge to that. So you have to find a way to make that work. But you also have to do projects that are passion projects, that touch the community, that rattle the cage, that have social commentaries. Wherever you stand, just stand for something.
That's a good point. Clap. You guys can clap.
I want to add something just about this, just because I think that a lot of times artists feel like someone's going to write about my work, somebody somewhere, and I'm here to deliver the very heavy bad news. I've been creating dance for over 20 years in Houston. If you Google me, I have like 3 articles written about me. One about my style, one about my wedding, and one about my dance work. 20 years. All that to say that I decided maybe about 8 years ago that I would just pay people to write about the things that I want them to write about. I'm gonna tell them what to write, but I'll just get people to write about it. So I would just say, in terms of documenting and preserving your work, is to take ownership of it yourself and share that with people. And it feels weird as an artist sometimes, because it's like, you feel like someone else should be doing it, and I know that makes a lot of sense. But one, I think we don't have that ecosystem in Houston to do that. It's just art writing in Houston is not great. And we can either complain about it, be sad about it, and just nothing is written, or we can take ownership ourselves and write about it. So I would say, don't feel bad about the fact that you have to do it yourself. Like, celebrate that, share it as widely as you can, because that's the only way you can guarantee that it's documented.
It's a great point. Gracie?
And so as a musician here on the panel, I just want to be obvious that, innately, the way to document music is through recordings. So for example, we continue to record. In fact, I haven't really announced this publicly yet, but FIFA World Cup has chosen Boileau to. So automatically, like, that is one other way to, document that work. But aside from that, things that we were doing, 15 some years ago when Facebook was, new and whatnot, is that we were using photography. Jay Tovar was like one of our first photographers, purposely for marketing. So a couple of days after you missed the event, you're like, this is what you missed, right? But now, later, looking back, that's a perfect way to document things. So I encourage all artists to meticulously document, film. I mean, I do have some regrets not videotaping more of things.
Right.
But just archiving that stuff. Recently, a good DJ friend of mine in the Bay Area decided to put 45 of his mixes on YouTube. Again, just diversifying those platforms. Don't let it just sit on SoundCloud. Putting them on different platforms, Mixcloud, Bandcamp, whatever the case may be. Because, again, you look back 15, 20 years, a lot of the stuff on MySpace is gone. You know what I mean? And another way to not only preserve it, but also to share it.
All right. Well, listening to you guys, a buzzword jumped out at me, collaboration. I know you guys hear that a lot, probably as artists. And, you mentioned paying someone to write about you. You mentioned paying someone to photograph you. How do, as artists, especially Robert and Sebastien as visual artists, how do you collaborate with institutions, museums, galleries, spaces that want you to paint murals on their buildings? How do you collaborate with these outsiders and keep your legacy intact when you have to maybe compromise in some way in order to get more visibility or elevate, as your career grows? How do you do that in such a way that still protects your legacy, ensures that your children and your children's children will be proud of what you're doing, and that the collaborator on the other side isn't overshadowing or taking advantage of you?
Yeah, I mean, we probably feel the same about that. I mean, collaboration is not anybody taking advantage. It's both sides being beneficial for each other. It feels very organic and natural. So it doesn't feel that way. Just for me collaborating so much, and I don't want to collaborate. It's not. I consider myself a workhorse, and sometimes people find me, they know that I'm gonna get the project finished, but I'm looking for somebody to share the same ideas about work ethic and just
responsibility.
Yeah. So maybe an institution. I mean, yeah, it's a discussion of is it beneficial. Like, for instance, I work with the Station Museum. So we did a group show, and I asked them, hey, I want to make a record. So I wanted to. I make music, but I wanted to make specific soundtracks, like soundscapes, to the art show. So you can ride out from the art show and have this music that related back to the art show. So I made all the music, they paid for it, they put the vinyl out. That's a collaboration. I do some of the work and some of the heavy stuff that might be just financial, they take care of it. And so you just gotta just really think about, is it serving both people? Does it feel organic? Because sometimes, it can switch up real quick. So just be considerate of that. I mean, it's very organic for me. And sometimes you don't know really. Sometimes some things look great from the outside, and then you start working, you realize, hey, this is not going to work. You might need to renegotiate. So, I think it's a very organic feeling that you just have to stay grounded. It's not a hard decision to make. Hey, this is not working right. This feels a little iffy. And communicate. Don't be scared. A lot of people are scared to speak up. Institutions are just people like us and that are working for a common, vision for the institution. But it's individual people that you can talk to and can help shape things. So just don't be afraid to communicate. I think that'll be my number one thing. So. Sebastien.
Yeah, let me add something to this. You're being a nice guy.
I'll roll with it.
You're being very Saturday diplomatic here. My personal relationship with institutions, galleries, museums, etc. As much as I have participated in my career, it's never been the most fulfilling. Simply because you have to compromise so much that often you kind of lose yourself a little bit. Especially with galleries, and the art gallery model has changed so much with the internet, where artists are more accessible now. And so the industry is kind of like for music, when Napster, like it's kind of changing the way people consume or purchase. So everyone's trying to adapt, but like right now I think it's Art Basel in Miami, right? And so many people there are struggling just to sell things, and so the commercial galleries are really leaning towards artists that sell, and it's usually kind of like colorful, happy stuff. So if you want to put out true, real material, you have to. I think it's a struggle, and one of my advice always to younger artists, even to myself, is like it's all about the business side. Sadly, and I'm saying sadly, like in capital letters, because it is a business. We are in a business, and often we're a commodity, right? So it's a struggle for everyone, and I don't think anyone has really cracked the code. You win some, you lose some, you adapt. It's an ever-changing market. And that's just, I guess that's part of the point.
You coming in, I'm coming as an LLC, not really, that's what I said, like my experience is different because I'm coming as a business entity, and I'm actually partying, collaborating. I don't see it as it's a partnership. So if I feel it's a partnership, I don't even go to it. So when I have an initial meeting, I feel like it's not a partnership, and there's something that's different, then I'm good. Like I'm good on Miami Bass because I know what it is. So I'm going to another place in December because I don't want to be a part of it because it's not for me. So that's what I'm saying, like knowing initially from the decision that, hey, that's not for me. And so, and not just being an artist, but I'm a business owner. Like I got to create a studio that I work with a lot of artists. So when I started seeing it that way, it changed the way I interact with them. So I can tell in the first meeting, oh no, I see what you're trying to do, I'm good. So, and I walk away. And so it won't even be a place of disrespect or a place of, I feel like I take advantage of, And so I think as an artist, you gotta have those periods where you understand that you are a business and you have to really take it seriously. No matter how much you don't want to, it's annoying to do all that stuff. You have to understand it's a business. It's sad, but it's not when you're independent. And as you see, I grew up on Rockefeller Records, so I have a different model. I saw, 3 black men that got rejected from the industry, and they're all, I love them, but they're all brothers, they're really successful, and they kind of forged their own path. So I always had that mindset in art. Even in my 20s, like, look, I am coming in this way because hip-hop can be destructive in certain ways. In certain ways, it's empowering. And so the entrepreneurship of those guys empowered me to look at myself as an artist and deciding how I was going to navigate. Because I was always on the outside. I collaborate with institutions, but I still feel like an outsider because I know what that means when you get swallowed by a machine or your art is everywhere on billboards. And, when I started getting books, I really got really angry because somebody would put me in a book with all my heroes. I get a book, it comes in the mail, and I'm like, hey man, somebody's selling this book. This book is like $110. I didn't get anything from this book, and I gotta ask, can I use that image in that book? And it's my art. And so those kind of things started shifting my mindset. Like, I just talked to a publisher. I didn't put my own book out next year. It's things that I want to do because I understand, like, look, you have to have ownership. And so,
I mean, it's sharky water for sure.
It is.
The hustle and the grind is real and never stops.
I agree.
How are we doing on time?
We're good.
Okay, great.
I just want to add one thing because I think the conversation is leaning heavily toward like business money, and I also want to add the value part of it, and I mean personal values, artistic values. Sometimes working with institutions, the no is because of your values. And a good example is I did a project at Rice University. I was the artist in residence for one of the departments there. And the piece that I've been dying to do at a white institution is called Black Bodies in White Spaces. And when I wanted to do that in a white institution because there's no way you can co-opt that project. there's no way Rice is gonna put on something called Black Bodies. So, you know, my value was, if you let me do this with this title, I can go anywhere. I mean, I can outdo anything here, right? That was my litmus test for values. And there was an initial slight conversation of, are you married to the title? I am. I am. We are deeply in love, right? So I just wanted to say that sometimes it's not just about the business, yes or no, but sometimes it's just it just doesn't feel right inside, right?
So I want to talk a little bit about branding, because a lot of what we're kind of discussing at this moment is like creating a brand that people would want, and then understanding the integrity of that brand, right? Like we're talking about not budget, like this is what I want to do. You know, when you come to these situations with collaboration, but to each one of you, I mean, you guys all have your own brand, your own style, your own uniqueness in terms of, you know, how you present your work. How important is branding and using that brand in storytelling to make an impact to you guys? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Gracie, you got something to share?
Going right back to business.
I know, right? So branding, I think, you know, interestingly enough, you know, earlier on in my career, you know, moving from music journalist to working as a copywriter at ad agencies, that was always front of mind.
Okay.
So I almost think that, you know, when it came time for the creation of Boom Boom, that all of those things in my wheelhouse kind of came into play. But, you know, it goes back to like integrity, you know, your branding, your authenticity. And I realized as a woman in a male-dominated industry, especially a woman of color, that I really had to make a statement, and it had to feel right. And so I find myself in many instances where I was playing out of town, and thinking immediately to just go maybe patronize a little bit. And then I'd be constantly reminded that no, you know, you're here to bring a different flavor. And then just standing in that power, really, you know, and, you know, delivering, you know, something different. I think that also contributed to, like, not just my brand, because I think for a while there, Boom Boom and my work were synonymous. But I do think that, you know, reminding yourself those values also need to be tied into that branding.
Yeah, I struggle with branding because I don't know that I have a brand. I haven't tried to have one. But I guess I closely align brand with reputation. And so for me, I learned my biggest branding tip from my grandmother. I was raised by my grandmother when I was very young. And she simply would always say, you have nothing other than your name. It's the one thing you have. And I've been very protective of like that, so there aren't a lot of people that have bad things to say about me. So I guess I just move with care because I hope that how I treat people shows up in the brand, and that has nothing to do exactly with art, but it kind of does because I do art about people. So I make work about Black people in Houston, and I think you have to care to do that. You know, you have to handle it and do it responsibly. You have to care. So I think of what you're saying too, the personal values, I think, are the brand, and I think it's beautiful when people can slap a vibe on that and a logo on that. I think that's so amazing. That's not my thing, but I think for me, branding has to have those roots before it has that external wow.
Yeah, no, I agree. Let's take it to pop culture, right? Simply, you can look at the way artists make, like how Drake might move, producing all this music, and like, you know, he turns it into a label, he gets $30 million, and then you can look at Kendrick, who takes his time and maybe take 3 to 5 years to make a record, but it's full of integrity, narrative, thoughtfulness. So it's a different type of branding, depending on what you want to do. But I'm into, like, you know, I didn't always think about it either. So the last maybe 4 or 5 years, I've been thinking about what is a brand, what does that mean, and what are you saying, and my brand now is is going to a nonprofit called Real Life Heroes to really mentor artists in a real way. Not just technical skills, but how to really, kind of navigate the landscape, but also thinking about how can I still elevate and find art and have this work that goes to museums, but then how do I make work for collectors and consumers that want to have a piece of the work that is not expensive, but it still helps integrity. And what does that look like outside of a painting? And so that's the way you can think about branding. If you do something very particular, you're like, man, well, how does this translate in these different areas of what you want to sell? And that's really hard because really, again, for me, it's about integrity. I don't want to water things down or just sell things for money. It's like, how does that connect to the overall studio? And so, like again, if you only have $10, it's something for you that you can walk away with and we all feel great about it, And so, at this point in time, branding is important. I believe so. But again, Harrison does have a brand. Doesn't know it, but it is a brand of integrity. It is a brand of what you just said about rights and that statement. That, to me, that's your brand. Like when I think about you, I think about, again, that you have a care for what you're saying, the neighborhood, you collaborate and empower other people around you. And so, you have a brand, man. That's what I think.
Man, sorry to bring it back. Branding is marketing. Branding is marketing. Marketing is business. Period. And unfortunately, it is a necessary evil. I never went to art school, but I do. Back in France, marketing, communication, all this stuff, and that's 50-75% of our time, it seems. Emails, proposals, on-site meetings, blah blah blah. Video documentation. And then eventually you paint.
Late at night.
But nowadays people are so laser focused on being recognizable. They have one style. I see a lot of artists and people have different approach. They want to be recognizable, like a Nike logo, but that's like the focal point. And I personally don't agree with that. But again, someone told me, came to my show, and I forgot who he was, some writer for some blog, and he was like, you have to be quotable and recognizable. I was like, oh boy. And there's some truth to that because people want Andy Warhol piece because people recognize what it is. So that's the value. And a lot of art, especially now with social media and everything, where people are doing their own marketing, their own branding. That's just something that people are struggling with. And sometimes I say, I recognize how important it is, but you also have to break the rules. And this is something that if you want to get to any level, you have to stand out. And you have to stand out by standing up to the business model, to whatever people think, to get political during the election, just stand for something. And then usually people will recognize your truth. And that seems to work, at least for me.
All right, good point. Do I have time to open it up for questions? I have one more question that I want to hear from the audience. So this last question is focused on the city of Houston. We're going to start with you, Gracie, because you do amazing work for the city of Houston. So, I need to add one for real. But to each of you, I'm curious because I know you guys love the city. I know you guys do work that impacts the city, whether you're being told it does or not, but it is very obvious. So I'm curious, is it more important for you guys to have a certain legacy here locally, or is it more important for you to have a global legacy? Because we know a lot of famous people that are from Houston where you don't know until they die, right? And you're like, what? They were born in Houston? And they went their whole careers without ever mentioning the city that birthed them or for whatever reason. But I'm just curious, how do you guys look at the work you're doing and how it impacts locally versus how the work you're doing will be received globally? Gracie.
That's a big one. Because you're thinking hyper-local and then macro. I'm going to start with this. I'm going to say that I think it's more important for me to have that lasting legacy within my community. And that's open for interpretation. You know, it's if you know, you know, right? I just happen to be based in Houston. I just happen to be connected, you know, in my region in Texas. And thankfully, because of network, also somewhat internationally, right? But I would say, you know, the impact for me would have to be within my community, yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I don't really care about anybody outside of Houston, to be very honest. I'm just Houston. I'm just like, Houston is the globe. Okay? And we still have so much untapped. We got work to do in Houston. To even, you know, I'm so focused on trying to get Houston to not be so humble that no one knows we're working. You know what I mean? I'm trying to get us to be braggadocious. I'm stand up with your chest out with your work, like sing it to the rafters. We still haven't done that yet, you know, so I'm committed to how do we figure out how it's just so widespread in Houston that it may spill over somewhere else, and I'm okay with that. But I'm really curious about what we can do here in Houston that we can be extremely proud of. And like my work is specific to Houston. Like I do like work about Black Houston, right? And so, but that can get people's attention, you know. So like my last project I did at Carnegie Hall, I got to choreograph on the A-League school dances, which I went to the A-League school. It was a milestone in my life, but they asked me to do that because of the work I'm doing about Black Houston. Like they would not have cared if I was dancing about giraffes, you know, they wouldn't have, you know. But it's like, oh, there's something there about people. So my Houston work was powerful enough that they would invite me to do that. So I believe in Houston. I brag about it all the time, and I just think we still have so much work to do that we need more people focused on. Let's do that and then see what happens.
I share that sentiment. I'm shifting now. I think locally, but I act globally. And I want to be an ambassador to take Houston outside of Houston. I did that work for 20 years, and so I think about the people. So we talk about legacy and impact. Let's think about, let's stay in the realm of music. Let's think about the global impact people from Houston and how they got there. And unfortunately, it wasn't through Houston. Beyonce will be Beyonce if she didn't go her route. Travis Scott. We can go on and on about people you might consider a superstar. What that support came from Houston after they did this work outside of Houston and they brought it back. So my challenge to Houston is I want us to think about being leaders and honoring our heroes here while they're here, and then propelling them out in the world, not waiting until the world says they're great, and the user says, you know what, yeah, they are great. And after that happens too much here, so that's my challenge for Houston. It's like, you know, this work you're doing is great. I feel the same way, but then again, I'm thinking about the world and how do we translate outside of Houston, and it's important that a city, like you said, gets louder. We're a little humble. Let's support our greats here while they're alive. Again, not wait till Floyd do some passes or J.C. Live passes to say how great they were, and to give them a retrospective with the MFA, but they couldn't have them while they're alive. And so that's a major problem in the visual art world. Like I don't want my flowers not dead. Like let's give them while they're alive, while they're vibrant, and let's move that way. So that would be my challenge to Houston. Like I think people have to die for you to say, man, let's give them a street name. I mean, so yeah.
Well, I'm a transplant, so I came to Houston 17 years ago. I lived in Dallas before and other places. So Houston, I kind of blended here on accident, to be honest. I had some projects, and I really, really enjoyed the quality of the people and the diversity, and I felt at home immediately, like this global city, massive city. I grew up in France and Paris, and you know, I felt at home immediately, and what really surprised me, and this is for anyone who like is on the fence about trying something big or going bigger than they ever have or opening something crazy, do it because this city will support it, and I've experienced that multiple times. even if they don't know you, just come with your big ideas. And it's a big city, you know, the whole Texas, everything's bigger. It is true, really it is. 10 years ago when I set out to paint, at the time, the biggest mural I ever attempted here, I was like, man, I'm never gonna get all the support, the boom lift, the paint. It was tens of thousands of dollars just to produce the work. And I did a sketch and everyone, I mean, it was so easy to find the support. The Midtown Management District, and all these people were like, okay, it's never been done, it's big, it's gonna be cool, let's go, how much do you need? And I was like, oh shit, okay. we can do this. And so, and once you get, and actually being, I'm glad to be back at UHG because 6 months later, they commissioned me to do a big alligator mural because that's their mascot, and it was the same deal. It was sort of like, let's go, you know? And so Houston is ready for big things. And I will say, and I'll finish on that, going back to our Basel, Miami thing, and, you know, been going there for years. And 10 years ago when you said, you know, this very sort of artsy-fartsy crowd that you were based in Houston, people would kind of like, oh, why? Yeah. You know, especially Europeans. They were like, they would roll their eyes at you, and now when you go, they're like, oh, Houston, oh yeah, here it's moving big. Like, you guys have murals everywhere. You're like, we're on the map now, you know? But you're right, we still have a lot of work to do, but I think the city can do it.
I got a question, because you grew up in Paris. How would your impact be if you stayed in Paris and tried to push the culture with art there? What would look different in your career from what it is now coming to Texas and Toronto? Because again, the Bible states about a prophet in his hometown and how he's treated. So could you imagine what your career would be if you stayed in Paris and tried to push the culture and do everything you're doing now in Paris? What would it look like?
First of all, I mean, Paris is the city of art, so, you know, there's so much going on. There's like the history is thick there, so there's a lot of red tape. Things, you know, this is a new country and the city is kind of ready for new blood, you know, it needs it. So as to what would my career be like, I don't know. I mean, I go back, I've done some things here and there, but the American market is so big. I mean, it's already hard to, even Houston, you can work your entire life in Houston, and that's it, and not even have to get out of Houston. Houston is like, what, the size of Belgium or something? Like, it's the economy is like incredible, and I'm not saying it's easy, but it's possible here. So, but like everything else, you know, you're always exotic somewhere, right? So if you're born here, then your local guy is cool, you know, it can work. But if you're different, well then use that difference, and people enjoy that as well. So I think it works both ways.
All right. Amazing dialogue. So now, audience, here's your chance to ask these 4 people some questions about the practice, about their legacy, about maybe other questions about legacy. Anybody? Yes.
I was wondering if you had to start your career today, what would be your first step, or what would you do differently?
If you had to start your career, what would be your first step, or would you do something different?
I would have said fuck it a lot sooner. And I think as creatives, you don't realize how many of those fuck it's can be so transformative. And then you build on that. And then you do shit that like you would have never imagined. And so yeah, I probably would have like done it a lot sooner.
So for me, like, sometimes people ask the question, like, what's your biggest accomplishment? And they're expecting me to say a big word, but my biggest accomplishment is the day I figured out to not make work with the white gays. And what I mean by that is when I started working in Houston, everything was white. The dance community was white. The Houston Arts Salon, everything was just white. And so I was making black work, but it was through the lens of wanting them to come see the work, wanting them to grant me money for the work, which changed language, it changed music, it changed vibe, right? And so if I was starting today, I would start with black people in mind. That would be different for me.
the places I want to get ran. So I feel like it's counterproductive to who I am. Like without those things that happen, I wouldn't be who I am now, the way I think about life at 360. So I really don't regret any of it. Like it needed to make me hear who I am. Like I wouldn't be sitting right here about those things. And again, some of us unfortunate, not pleasant, but I think, yeah, those things define all of us. So you gotta take the good with the bad. So really, nothing.
I completely agree with what you say. I'm pretty sure we're sitting here for a reason, and we've gone through the same sort of pushbacks and challenges, and your big wins usually come from taking risks, taking chances. Otherwise, you're just like everyone else, you know. So you have to rattle the cage a little bit or push the envelope, and everyone has different backgrounds, you know, and so there's not one recipe. But going back saying I would not change a thing, all of my failures, it built me. You learn a lot from your failure. As we all know, it sounds cliche, but it's so true. The successes, you take them, and the glamorous moment in the spotlight are very rare anyways. It's like 1% of the time. 99% of the time, it's just work, you know. So.
I want to say one thing. The reason I don't regret the past, I got a rejection of it yesterday in the email, and I went right to sleep. That's the thing. You're not stressing, oh man, I get rejected so much. I'm like, yeah, cool. And I watch it. That's what life does when you know that you do this for it's a love and a passion. And outside of the things I have on my goal list, I don't even care if those happen anymore. I'm just gonna have integrity and I'm living off my work, and that's really success for me. So everything else is like a cherry on top. But now, yeah, just to get rejected, like, have a great day, no bad energy. It took so long to get there because you think you take it personal, but it's not personal. And so, like, starting to curate and collaborate, you understand how the industry and whatever you're doing works, and so you don't take it so personal anymore. So, but then comes a rejection and all the nights of like thinking you're not enough and all those things we go through. And so, I'm in a real comfortable space of like who I am and what I'm doing, but still being like water and pushing forward, but not being tied down by what I don't get or what and being happy for your comrades. When they get something that you applied for, celebrate them. So that's what we should be doing more of. So, anyway.
True that. Yes. You.
Got a mic.
I hope this isn't dumb or disrespectful, but for some of us young, feeling like we're getting less young, would you guys mind telling us how old you are right now, and then how old you feel? We need to see people that are older than us that are starting things, or like starting their legacy.
Sure.
Because it feels like I'm running out of time. Yeah.
Can I say something to this real quick? So I'll be 45 next month. All right, thank you. And a lot of my peers, a lot of people in my age group, right? They're going through this sort of midlife crisis, right? Of trying to figure out how to pivot, right? So what I can say to younger artists who are just getting started, or even if you're an older artist just getting started, right? The main thing is not being locked in or tied to one discipline or one style or one thing, because I guarantee you life is going to push you in a direction where you're going to have to switch it up. You're going to have to change something of what you're doing or add something to what you already had. So, and I don't know if everybody wants to say their age or whatever, but, I just want to say, always be youthful in your mind, you know what I mean? In terms of what you can bring to the table or, pull in, because life will change you. I mean, the climate, nothing is like when we were kids, right? And another 20 years, it ain't gonna be like this. So enjoy what you're doing right now and be prepared for the switch up, for the change.
So I'm 48 and I feel 21 and 81 at the same time. I am someone, I don't give a lot of Mario coins to youth, and being And you can start something new every day. Any day you wake up is a day you can start something new. I'm 48 and starting a new organization right now. So if I was so concerned about the legacy of what I started 20 years ago, I would just keep trying to grind that until it was whatever. And not thinking, oh, what if I have a new idea? Like, what if I want to do something else or something different or something more? So I understand the question to be feeling like time is running out, but I wouldn't define it that way, because every day you can decide to do something new or different. That's the beauty of being an artist and being creative, is that we're not in that box, you know? And so that's what I would impart.
So the only lady on the panel. You never asked the lady. But I will say that you don't have to be on a timeline. The timeline is yours. And, Harrison is right. I think, we don't need to limit ourselves or box ourselves in on when to start, when to stop, how to do it, when to do it. It's, it's really, it goes back to what those values are, how you feel so inspired. So yeah, stop looking, over your shoulder at what other folks are doing. Just do you.
What she said earlier, fuck it. And the sooner you do this, really, the better off you are. Maybe we should rename the summit. Because that's truly the key, is to stop worrying about things. Even stop worrying about your legacy. I'm so okay with that. First of all, we'll be gone. So, but like some people still don't know who Salvador Dali is, and so our impact, it's like chill out.
I just want to say, it's not. So I just turned 45 on October 17th, and I think we got to get out of things that we can't control. I never understood age shaming, because I grew up with a lot of older people, and they were always my mentors, and I always understood the shoulders I was standing on. So it was never any problem to acknowledge my mentors and people that inspire my work. And it seems like that's an issue now. I don't know why. You can't control age. It's something natural. It should be applauded. I didn't think I would make it to 45, first of all. Not that I was a bad kid. It's just I lost a lot of good friends. Just through life, I said, I cannot be arrogant and think that life is guaranteed to me. So I live every single day like it's my last. Literally, I pass out from exhaustion every night. Whether I go out and work or go somewhere, I don't plan. Maybe tonight I tried, so I went to bed like at 1 a.m., but I tried to go to sleep. That's early for me. So I just think we gotta, just think about the work you're doing and not. Because when you get older, you start getting more wisdom. You can really, instead of running down the hill, you can really walk down the hill and know where you're going. So look forward to that. Use your 20s, however you want to create and experiment. And so I think people gotta understand also how to move into different phases of life. Like I don't want, the space I've been occupying, I don't want to anymore. That's why I want to curate, I want to mentor and still do my work, but I don't need to be in that space that maybe Rue Rob can be taking up, what's up, Rue? And so also people gotta know how to keep moving, and I think the problem is a lot of people want to stay in this space, and I don't mind critiquing young people and being critiqued back, but also I think people are scared because they start calling you like a hater, right? When you try to give somebody advice, you get called these nasty names, but it doesn't matter, it's just be happy. We all got to keep our progression going, and when you hold the line up, that's the real problem for me. Keep it moving. Like you said, you don't got to panic and pivot, just be thinking about the future, where you want to go, and it's so natural. But it's not natural when you want to, be 50, and it's great to be rapping, but also you should have a label. You should be putting artists out. You should be the main rapper on your label when you're 50. To me, that's the problem, just keep progression going, and so, yeah.
Right.
One question.
One more question. Make it a good one. Oh, up top. It better be a fire question, too.
See, Chris, he's 40, he ready to stand up pretty good.
My question kind of touches back on community in Houston and these micro communities. So I'm a school teacher. I'm from Louisiana, but I've been in Houston. I've been a school teacher. So I recognize the undercurrent culture. When like showcasing. So how do you add that care to the communities that you're representing in the spaces of art and culture as you think globally, and you try to extrapolate what is so rich here to a bigger audience?
So we got it.
So that's a great question. So I think it's important. I work a lot, like the community I grew up in was a very generous community. So I approach that with generosity, right? And so not very gatekeepy, because I think people take it at where they are, right? So I might be at Black Things, I'm gonna be Dr. Black Things, right? Someone else might be entering at Black Things 101. And so they take a little piece and they do what they know to do with that little piece, but I'm not mad about that. I'm like, the generosity means you get to experience this at your pace, right? So I'm not expecting you to come spend 3 days with me at the Gregory School to learn more about this topic. I'm just like, you got it, it's gonna do something for you. So I think looking at it from a perspective of generosity versus like, you need to know all the things to really wear that cowboy hat. You know what I mean? So I think that's the care of it. The care of it is that I've already created it from a space of care, right? It's already, the care is already there, but I don't inflict or expect that same level of care on everyone who engages it.
Yeah. I mean, for me, it's so authentic because I live in my neighborhood. I purchased my childhood home, and I see these people every day. So it's just a natural thing for me because I'm not making this work in another space and bringing it to my neighborhood. Like, I'm living in my neighborhood. I walk out, I see people I've been over my whole life. So it's really transformative to see these people that knew me as a kid and see me in a home that I grew up in, and I'm working in there, though I'm traveling. Again, I represent that neighborhood. So I think those small things make the work just stay with integrity because I have to look at everybody and talk about it. Like you said, some people are understanding fully and some people are understanding one-on-one, but they're still getting something. They're coming back for more and they're adding more value. But when I'm living and working in the neighborhood, there's no other way but to be authentic. I don't have to think about that.
Just again, I'm not originally from here, but I drank the Kool-Aid, man. I'm used to strong all the way. I love the city to a point where even when I'm traveling and overseas, I miss it. I'm like, what's wrong with me? So again, the quality of the people, and that's something, especially you as a teacher, like nurturing that, not getting a big head, like I'll name them, like, okay, LA or New York, or when you're in that scene, it is such a different world. It's like a different country to me, and there's only so much of that I can take. Now it's nice, to go that creative energy that you find in these other markets, but there's only one Houston, that's for sure, and I hope it stays this way. I want it to grow and become, this art mecca that I think it's really becoming. But at the same time, stay chill, stay humble, and other cities really just do it differently. So that's just my contribution to the community is that I've adapted to it. I'm not trying to turn Houston into, Paris or something. It's just like Houston has its own identity and just needs to grow. Well, it's also an identity that's made of 80% from all other places, I think. 80% of Houstonians are from someplace else. So, that's insane. We're a blueprint for how the world should work.
That's why we need you to claim Houston. You've been for 17 years. You're not there. You've been there. We need to get you to adopt the papers on a data set. If you are from Houston, man, 17 years, man, we claim you, bro. With all the property taxes.
And so just to segue off that immigrant experience, as I mentioned earlier, I understand that, my part in my community, my culture, also means a voice for my community. Again, I'm first generation Mexican American, and a lot of those voices are silenced, especially in a community as large, fourth largest city in the country. Nearly 60% of our demographic here is Latino. So I have an opportunity to represent that here. And I kind of see it channels. If it's picked up, you know, somewhere in Germany or somewhere else, great. But I want to represent that voice for my community as well.
Well, clap it up, clap it up. I just want to close out and say I learned so much from everybody here. Sebastien, it's great to meet you. But yeah, man, this was really impactful. Thank you, Fresh Arts, for having us, you know, have this conversation. Hopefully, throughout the day, we can sidebar, you know, about things creative, because I know I can speak for Gracie on this. We talk all the time about how to tighten this ship up. And Houston is a huge city where people are always doing stuff, but we're not connected in the way that we should be. There shouldn't be any reason, like we should all be family, but there's so many of us that don't know each other. And hopefully by the end of the day, that can change. So, thank you guys.
So much.